Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your stack of articles, research, notes, all that information, and boil it down to the real nuggets of insight.
Exactly. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, to being well-informed.
Yeah, hopefully with some surprising facts, maybe a bit of humor along the way to keep you listening.
And today, we're embarking on quite a journey. We're diving deep into Nigeria, looking at three really distinct states: Plateau, Jigawa, and Abia.
Right. You've given us some incredibly rich source material here.
We have, and our job now is to unpack all of that, the unique cultures, the history, the day-to-day life in each of these regions.
That's the goal. We want to help you get a real feel for what makes each state special. Their ethnic groups, their ancient past, but also things like music, food, even the local slang.
Get ready for some aha moments, I think.
Yeah, because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's kick things off with Plateau State. It's got the nickname Home of Peace and Tourism. Expert, when you look at the geography, what jumps out? I'm picturing this high plateau. You said 1,200 to 1,800 meters. Lots of rocky hills, cool green areas. It sounds very different from other parts of Nigeria.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that unique geography, it's probably a big reason for Plateau's incredible cultural mix. It really is a kind of microcosm of Nigeria's diversity.
How many groups are we talking about?
Well, the sources say over 40 distinct ethnic groups. You've got the Beram, the Efezer, Ngos, Tarok, just to name a few.
Wow, 40. And how do they all communicate?
Well, English and Hausa often serve as, lingua francas, common languages for wider communication. But their own local languages, like Beram and Izer, they're still very much alive and thriving.
And the history is quite layered, too, isn't it? Our sources mentioned the British formed it back in 1926.
That's right. Shaped around Joseon Pangshin, primarily for tin mining logistics. That colonial beginning really influenced its early path.
Yeah, you can imagine. And it's seen changes since then, merged with Benue State for a time, then later redivided.
And we should also mention, just based on the sources provided, that the 21st century has unfortunately seen persistent conflicts, farmer-herder issues, ethnic and religious tensions.
Right. It's a complex reality, and we're just relaying what the sources cover here, impartially, of course.
Exactly. But despite those challenges, the traditions there are remarkably vibrant, deeply rooted.
Like the Beram festivals.
Yes. Take the Beram. They have a big unified harvest festival, Nezim Beram, in early April. It's a powerful community thing. And other festivals, too, like Mandiang, Nashak, marking planting, hunting.
Tied to the rhythm of life.
Precisely. And for the Efezer, dance is absolutely central. Dances like Asharua, Amada, Agba. They're not just performances, they're woven into the fabric of community life storytelling.
And it's not just ancient history either. You mentioned NAFEST 2020 showcasing things like choral music, local food, even board games and archery.
Yeah, it shows a dynamic blend, tradition meets modernity, and their musical heritage is equally rich. The Beram, for instance, have some really unique instruments.
Like what?
Well, stringed ones like the Yomji banjo got a real distinct sound, and the Yongwei harp. Then percussion, the kundum xylophone, bead drums, barrel drums, gourd drums.
A whole orchestra.
Sort of, and wind instruments too, flutes, whistles, horns. It's quite something.
And the Tarok, their music is tied to social structures.
Yeah, that's what's fascinating. Our sources point to a strong oral tradition. Songs for farming, songs for telling history. It really shows how culture persists, even if these specific genres aren't, widely known outside the community. Speaks volumes about local identity.
Let's talk food. The sources mention fonio, or chun.
Yes, chun. That, along with millet and maize, are staples, often prepared as a thick paste, a chun, or maybe a gruel like katai chun or borik chun.
Okay, and I guess they also eat common Nigerian dishes.
Oh, absolutely. Rice, millet porridges, lots of soups thickened with things like egusi, those are melon seeds, or okra, served with yam paste, gari. Those staples are widespread.
What about clothing? Is it distinctive?
Very much so. Beram attire often features green and maroon fabrics. Apparently it symbolizes the local cactus. And they use a special powder called tea.
Tea?
Yeah, it's worn communally, believed to offer protection, maybe healings. It's quite symbolic.
Any of these?
For the Izir, you might see specific royal hairstyles like striped cuts, and garments like aitak, that's a men's waist wrap, and akbai for women, plus these striking crown staffs, akbong.
You mentioned the cactus symbolism, so flora is important.
Definitely. Cacti like euphorbia are common and culturally significant. And beyond plants, Plateau has amazing natural sites. Jos Wildlife Park, for example.
What kind of animals?
Sources mention elephants, lions, crocodiles. It's quite a large park, about 8 square kilometers. Then you have the sheer hills peaks reaching over 1,700 meters. Rium Rock is another striking formation, and Asop Falls, beautiful cascades.
So a lot for tourism. And the people, about 3 million, you said?
Around that, yes. And as we mentioned, over 60 ethno-linguistic groups, according to some sources. That really underlines the microcosm of Nigeria idea.
Any notable figures mentioned?
Yeah, the sources list politician Jonah Jang, musician Jeremiah Gang, innovator Sim Shagaya, and crucially, the art heritage. The Jos Museum holds Nook terracotta figures.
Nook. That's incredibly old, man.
Extremely. Dating from around 500 BC to 200 AD. A really deep artistic legacy there.
So home of peace and tourism, it captures the natural beauty and, I suppose, the aspiration for harmony.
It does, and even the local Biram youth have a motto. Kasi hayi boy. This means do it again. It speaks to resilience, you know? Looking forward.
Okay, from the cool highlands of Plateau, let's head north to Jigawa State, nicknamed the New World.
A very different landscape, semi-arid plains.
And the name itself, Jigawa, means sand in Hausa. What does that tell us?
It tells us about resilience, I think, a connection to that specific environment. And that environment shapes the culture. It's predominantly Hausa and Fulani here.
Right. Some Kanuri speakers, too, in certain areas.
Yes, in places like Biriniwa and Gori. And it's important to note, Jigawa is largely Muslim and one of the 12 Nigerian states operating under Sharia law.
Meaning Islamic principles are part of the legal system.
Primarily in civil matters, yes. Now, it's modern history, formed in 1991 from Kano State.
But its ancient history goes way back. Dutsen Habud, the Burning Kudu cave paintings, Neolithic era.
That's right, astonishingly old. And those rock gongs found there. The sources suggest they might be ancient musical instruments, maybe even used for signaling.
Wow. Ancient echoes alongside modern life. What about festivals?
The Durbar festivals are iconic, especially the ones under Sarkandatsi. Huge equestrian parades, riders and horses decked out in bright colors, drumming.
When do they happen?
They often mark Eid celebrations and also the Ghani festival, which celebrates Prophet Muhammad's birth. It's a real spectacle, a powerful display of culture.
And the music must be amazing.
Hausa musical traditions are strong. During the Durbar, you have formal praise singing, encomiums, often with powerful percussion. And thinking back to those ancient rock gongs, maybe they were the very first instruments here. Adds a layer, doesn't it?
And it really does. What about food in Jigawa? What are the staples?
Think millet, sorghum, maize. A common dish is, too, a kind of thick pap.
And what do you eat it with?
Usually with flavorful soups. Mian kuka, made from baobab leaves, is one. Mayan tosh, a groundnut stew, is another. It reflects the agriculture. Over 80% of people are involved in subsistence farming, animal husbandry.
A real connection to the land.
Yeah.
And their clothing.
You'll see elegant Hausa Fulani garments, the flowing Babanriga robes for men, distinctive Zanabukar hairstyles, hula caps, turbans.
And during the Durbar, I imagine it's even more elaborate.
Absolutely. A kaleidoscope of colors, the riders, the horses, everything is richly adorned. It's visually stunning.
Geographically, what defines Jigawa besides the sand?
Well, it's northern semi-arid plains, Sudan savanna, scrubland. You have seasonal rivers like the Hadejia and Igi. And sand dunes, typical of the Sahel region.
Any key landmarks mentioned?
The Dutsen Habud rock art, definitely. Detsi Gadawur, that ancient monolith. And the Hadejia Kafin Hausa wetlands are ecologically important, known for bird life.
And the population?
Around 4.3 million back in 2006, mostly rural, maybe 90%. Literacy rates were noted as lower in the early 2000s, but there's development happening. Institutions like Federal University Detsi are part of that.
Any prominent figures?
Political figures like Sule Lamido are mentioned. It all comes back to that name, Jigawa, sand. It really feels symbolic of the people's resilience in that landscape.
Okay, let's shift again. Southwards this time to Abia State, God's own state. That's quite a moniker.
It is indeed, and Abia is overwhelmingly Igbo, over 95% of the population. Geographically, we're in the Cross-Niger Transition Forests, parts of the Niger Delta Swamp Forests.
What's the significance of Abia for the Igbo people, historically and culturally?
Well, its history is deeply tied to Igbo identity. It has roots in the powerful Aro Confederacy, and it was involved in the Anglo-Aro War back in 1901.
Right, with the British.
Yes, it was carved out of Imo State in 1991. And symbolically, parts of Abia were significant during the Biafran War in the late 60s. This history really speaks to Igbo resilience, their strong sense of self.
You can see that resilience in their traditions too, I bet, like the New Yam Festival.
Absolutely. That's a huge cultural event, not just a harvest festival. Then there's the Ofala Festival, honoring traditional rulers, and the Ojin Festival, celebrating Ojin drum music.
Any specific performances mentioned?
Yes, the sources highlight the Ohafia war dancers, known for being quite dramatic, acrobatic, and the Aiza Aha, the traditional naming ceremony for children. Very important for community integration.
Abia sounds musically vibrant too. Bright chamizi.
Ah, yes. A true pioneer. He created the Zigima sound. It blends traditional Igbo highlife music with lyrics that are often satirical, socially aware.
Any famous songs?
Ubanwan, Respect Africa. They're iconic. But more broadly, Igbo highlife itself is just central to the culture there. Rich rhythms, great guitar work, that classic call and response.
Makes you want to dance just hearing about it. What about the food? Any unique Abia dishes?
Definitely Ofe Atra. It's a unique soup made with elephant grass achara. It has egusi balls, palm oil, and it's thickened with achi and okazi leaves. A real taste of the region.
Sounds intriguing. And other staples?
Of course, you'll find common southeastern foods. Gari, fufu, yam dishes. They form the base of many meals naturally.
And textiles.
Yeah.
Igbo attire is known for being vibrant.
Extremely vibrant. Wrappers like George and Ankara fabrics, the distinctive Isiagu shirts, often adorned with lion head motifs and coral beads.
But there's something specific from Abia.
Yes. Akwit textiles from Ukwa East. These aren't just cloths, they're hand-woven works of art. Intricate designs, each symbolizing something status, beauty, incredible craftsmanship.
Wow. And the landscape. Rivers are important.
The Imo and Aba rivers define borders and nourish the land. It supports a rich biodiversity swampfish, forest wildlife, all part of the ecosystem.
Population-wise, what are we looking at?
Around 4.1 million, estimated in 2022, predominantly Christian Igbo.
And notable figures from Abia.
Sources mention musicians like Bright Chemezi, of course, but also Basket Mouth, Mr. Raw, political figures like Jaja Wachuku, and historically, Nandi Kanu is also noted, though, again, we're just reporting impartially based on the sources.
Abia also has some key cities and landmarks, doesn't it? Umuahia, the capital.
That's right. Home to the National War Museum and the Ojukwu Bunker. Offers a real window into Nigeria's history, particularly the Civil War period.
And Aba, that's the commercial hub.
Yes, Aba is huge commercially. Famous for the Ariaria International Market, they call it the China of Africa.
Really? Why?
It's a massive center for trade, especially in leather goods, shoes, a real engine of commerce.
What about Arochukwu? More history there.
Definitely. You've got the Okoroji House Museum, a 17th century mud house, incredibly preserved. The Abini Ukpabi Shrine, historically significant and unfortunately relics linked to the slave trade era. A complex past.
Any natural sites?
The Azumini Blue River is mentioned, sounds beautiful. And the Amakama Wooden Cave. Lots to explore.
Language-wise, it's mostly Igbo.
Overwhelmingly Igbo, yes. English is official. You might hear some Abibio in certain border areas, too.
And that nickname, God's Own State, really reflects a strong spiritual identity, I guess.
It seems to. And you'll hear greetings like Kedu, which just means, how are you? A simple, warm Igbo welcome.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today.
We really have a proper deep dive into Plateau, Jigawa, and Abia. It's quite striking how distinct each one is, isn't it?
Totally.
You go from the cool highlands and ancient Nuk art of Plateau to the, arid plains, cave paintings, and grander bars of Jigawa.
Right, and then down to Abia with its deep Igbo roots, the Zigima sound, those amazing Akwete textiles.
Each with its own unique flavor, its own story.
Absolutely, and this dive, using these specific sources, it really highlights the nuances, doesn't it? The stories you might not get from a general overview.
Exactly. It's not just facts and figures. It's about getting a sense of the heart of these communities.
And what's fascinating is seeing how these distinct regional identities, their traditions, music, landscapes, how they all fit together. They make up this incredibly rich, diverse, and, complex picture of Nigeria as a whole.
That's a great point. And maybe connecting it to the bigger picture, it leaves a thought for you, our listener. How might understanding these specific local identities, their unique histories, their challenges, their triumphs, how might that help us appreciate the broader complexity, maybe even the beauty of any nation, or even, your own community, if you were to do a similar deep dive into its own cultural threads?
Something to definitely chew on.
Something to ponder until our next deep dive.